Look, you have every right to comment, but I have every right to comment on your comment. So don't feel bad when I do. Your question, do we have multiple options? Answer is yes. Is that a problem? Why should it be a problem? If I'm smart enough to have multiple options, you should be admiring me. You shouldn't be criticizing. Today, to make a distinction between being non-West and anti-West. I would certainly characterize India as a country which is non-West, but which has an extremely strong relationship with Western countries, getting better by the day. It cannot be that one democracy has a right to comment on another, and that's part about promoting democracy globally. But when others do that, then it becomes foreign interference. Foreign interference is foreign interference, irrespective of who does it and where it is done.
India's diplomacy under External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is making waves globally. You might have come across many articles related to this topic. If not, let me show you. Recently, the Israeli ambassador to India made a very significant statement. Israel wants to learn from India's diplomacy and how to win the war of narratives. So why does Israel, one of the most powerful nations militarily, want to learn from India? And what exactly has India done to inspire this admiration? Let's break it down in today's video. In a recent statement, the Israeli ambassador to India emphasized that while Israel doesn't lack military power or weapons, it struggles with its global narrative. Israel is a very powerful country and can easily defeat the neighboring nations militarily. Israel also shares a very important relationship with the USA. The United States has stated many times that its number one ally, the most important country for the United States, is Israel. Countries like the UK and France come second and third, but Israel holds the top spot. Despite being the USA's top ally and sharing strong relationships with countries like the UK and France, Israel feels it is losing the battle of public opinion. That means, despite all this, Israel realizes that in terms of diplomacy, in maintaining narratives, and in presenting its side to the world, it has fallen far behind. You know what? Today, Israel is suffering because in many countries around the world, whether in Europe or in Japan, people who don't follow Islam, who have no connection with Palestine or the Arab world, are still making statements against Israel. Even neutral people are speaking against Israel, saying that Israel is doing wrong in Gaza. Israel believes that it failed to present its narrative properly to the world. Therefore, it needs to learn from India's diplomatic strategy, that is how India presents its stance logically, rationally, and effectively on global platforms.
Diplomacy, international relations, good ties, friendship are not about giving other people a say in your choice. Our choice must be our choice, however difficult it is. I'm not a rash person. I would say we need to calculate, we need to strategize, sometimes we need to soften at times. That is something which my business also does.
So, what has India done recently that Israel finds so inspiring? Let's take two major examples. Example 1: Russia-Ukraine conflict. You can understand this from how Europe and the USA pressured India not to purchase oil from Russia, calling Russia bad or evil. Even when India continued purchasing oil, many European leaders started saying that India was doing wrong by buying oil from Russia.
You still buy Russian oil. Is that okay with your counterpart from the US? Everything is, your relationship is fine, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want?
At that time, India's Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar responded with a clear and logical statement. He said, Europe needs to come out of the mindset that their problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not their problems. This was a bold yet diplomatic way of presenting India's interests.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems. That if it is you, it's yours, if it is me, it's ours.
And the second example is historical context of India-Russia defense relations. When Europe criticized India for its defense ties with Russia, that is, Europe criticized India for purchasing weapons from Russia. Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar reminded them that it was Europe itself that denied weapons to India in the 1970s and 1980s. Back then, they preferred Pakistan's dictatorship over India. As a result, India built its defense relations with Russia. That aspect of history cannot simply be forgotten. Therefore, India turned to Russia out of necessity. This is a point that even critics found hard to argue against. He also highlighted that Israel must understand how to utilize soft power effectively. Now, what is soft power? Soft power is a country's ability to influence global perceptions through culture, diplomacy, and international credibility. And everyone in the world agrees that the USA is the ultimate master of soft power. For example, when the USA questions the fairness of an election in any country, then the world immediately takes notice. Let me give you an example. Suppose there is an election in some African country, and the USA gives a statement questioning the fairness of those elections. Suddenly, the entire world media and people start believing that something unfair happened. If India were to make a similar statement, it would carry weight, but its impact would not be as strong as the USA's statement. Even American celebrities, influencers, and even tech giants like Elon Musk play a huge role in amplifying the USA's global narrative. All of this together forms a country's soft power. The USA's soft power is unmatched, but India also has soft power that is less than the USA, but it exists. India, too, has significant soft power through Bollywood, yoga, Indian cuisine, and our ancient languages like Sanskrit and Tamil. While India's soft power may not match the USA yet, it is growing steadily, and countries like Israel recognize this potential. Winning the narrative war. One of India's greatest strengths under Dr. Jaishankar's leadership is its ability to win the narrative war. You know, the most unique thing about these statements by Dr. Jaishankar is that European leaders genuinely thought about it, and some even accepted it. You might recall that Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz openly stated that Jaishankar has a point. What Dr. Jaishankar said was indeed correct. And this is how you present your stance. If a weaker leader had been in place, they might have just reacted emotionally, saying something like, "Don't lecture us, India is great, India will handle it." Rather, one should speak rationally, logically, and in such a way that even those opposing you acknowledge and say, "He has a point, he is right." Here's a reference. A 2023's article titled "Indian Minister Has a Point," quoting German Chancellor Olaf Scholz regarding Jaishankar's remark on the European mindset. This is how you win the narrative war, by presenting your side convincingly and making the other side agree. This is where Israel believes it can learn from India. That is how to respond logically and rationally without getting defensive. Now, does this mean India's diplomacy is perfect? No, there is always room for improvement. For India to rank among the top 5 countries in terms of soft power, we need to address key issues like cleanliness in public spaces, improving air quality, and raising the standard of living. When foreign tourists visit India, they often notice gaps in hygiene and cleanliness, which hurt India's global image. Initiatives like Swachh Bharat are steps in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go. Once we overcome these challenges, India's soft power will rise to its true potential. During the ongoing winter session of Parliament, several critical questions were posed to Dr. Jaishankar. Key among them, why doesn't India openly criticize Israel for its actions in Gaza? And more importantly, is it true that Indian weapons are being used by Israel in Gaza? Here's what India's External Affairs Minister said in response. As far as Israel is concerned, it is a country with which we have a strong record of cooperation in national security. When our national security was under threat, Israel stood by us on many occasions. When we make decisions, we will bear in mind the larger circumstances, but will primarily be guided by our national interest.
Where Israel is concerned, it is a country with which we have a strong record of cooperation in national security. It is also a country that has stood by us at different moments when our national security was under threat. So when we take any decision, we will bear in mind, obviously, the larger circumstances, but we will definitely be driven by our national interest in this matter.
This statement marks a bold and open declaration of India's pro-Israel stance, prioritizing national interest above all else. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think India's policy of prioritizing national interest is correct? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If anything happens in the future on this topic, I will make an updated video on it.